talking about how women lost respect for their husband and how they say all these mean things and then try to say they don't mean them at the end. And I don't think that's okay.
Don't criticize people because 99% of people can't take criticism. But be a person who can accept criticism, right? So it's a double standard in a way, but it's a good double standard. I'm going to learn how to take it in the right way.
It is a childish response that a lot of people get stuck in. And a lot of it is from childhood stuff, And so it's not going to be easy to just instantly not be defensive. But I think if you work really hard at it and you get to a better place like you and I have, you realize how much better it is for both people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't want it to be, and again, this is just making sure people don't take everything so literally, because sometimes they do.
Yeah.
That I don't want people to think that they should tolerate disrespect or that they should allow that to continue to happen.
Right.
Because I agree with you, at the end of the day, all you can do is what you can do. What you control is yourself. And that's the only thing you can control.
Right.
But at the same time, you shouldn't have to tolerate people talking to you in a certain way.
Right.
And again, like you said, I'm not saying don't listen to the person.
Right.
And you can listen to the person and try to figure out what they're actually saying, but then afterwards be like, hey, this is not the way, I know you're upset, but this is not the way to bring up the things that are hurting you. Because a lot of people find themselves, one of the really popular clips actually of ours this year was me talking about how women lost respect for their husband and how they say all these mean things and then try to say they don't mean them at the end. And I don't think that's okay.
No, it's not okay.
No. And I'm not saying that men aren't even hey, you can't talk to me like that. And I think that's why I think that you do have to have some sort of conversation. And when it initially happens, because the longer it goes on, the more someone is more likely to do it.
Yeah.
But I just don't want people to feel like they have to just allow the person they love to talk to them in a way that can, because we don't talk to each other that way, but I know what women and men are capable of saying when they're upset and how that hurts when the person you care about the most or your husband, your wife, or whoever is talking to you in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You got to have the boundary 100%. Yeah. I'm saying the double standards are, well, here's a good example of another good double standard, right? In the sense of it's what you apply to yourself, right? Is if you say, don't criticize people because 99% of people can't take criticism, but be a person who can accept criticism, right? So it's a double standard in a way, but it's a good double standard because that's how you should act, right? So it's the same thing with that, but it doesn't mean that you should just tolerate disrespect. It just means that you should be a little bit more. If someone doesn't word things perfectly, that's okay. Not okay if they say it in a disrespectful way.
Right.
But you should not give yourself the same leniency that you give other people, right? You should be like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to give them leniency in not wording things perfectly, but I'm going to try and word things perfectly because it's just a better way to operate. The same thing with criticism. If you say, hey, I'm not going to criticize people, but if someone criticizes me, I'm going to learn how to take it in the right way.
Right. I get it. But I sometimes, your brain's already figured all this out. I know what you're talking about. But sometimes we do have to break it down more because it's not, one, as easy as it seems. There's different layers to it. And how do you do it? And when do you do it? And just for people to comprehend what we're really talking about. Because, if it's just me and you, I get where you're coming from and I understand what you're saying. But just want to elaborate. And especially because, like I said, we did some episodes with some topics about people saying really mean and hurtful things and, people losing respect for each other. And I think I wanted to tie in to, defensiveness, like we were talking about that. I think love and respect, like the book that we read, when you aren't defensive with your partner and you come from a place of empathy, you are giving your partner love and respect. Right. You're giving them both simultaneously. It's respectful to allow somebody to vent their frustrations without instantly trying to invalidate it with defensiveness.
Yeah.
Even if that's not your intention, that's how it appears to people who are hurt and trying to have a conversation about it. And it really does change the dynamic of your conversation. Like, and I get that it's hard, especially if you're just used to defending yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like for your whole life, you know, to like, it's kind of becomes automatic, you know, because it's almost like a childish sort of response, you know, because when kids get in trouble, what do? They never say like, I did it. Yeah. They're like, not me, I didn't do that. Or they'll be like, this is why I did it. You know what I mean? Like it is a like childish response that like a lot of people get stuck in. And a lot of it is from childhood stuff, you know? And so it's not going to be easy to just instantly not be defensive. But I think if you work really hard at it and you get to a better place like you and I have, you realize how much better it is for both people.
Yeah.
And you realize, especially if you're with your partner, like the person you love, like there is no like tit for tat. There is no like, I won this conversation and he won this. Or like you said, like, it doesn't have to be like I'm agreeing with what this person is saying 100%, but I care about their feelings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when you kind of let go of like, I need to be right, or like, I need to defend myself or my innocence in this situation.
Yeah.
You're almost like trying to beat your partner.
Right.
You know, like you're trying to win.
Right.
And that's not what a partnership is. Like you're a team.
Win. Yeah, because there's no win if you win.
Right.
If
the only way you win
lose.
is if you both feel better and you're happy again.
Yeah. And it can also, I guess it's not to belabor it, but sometimes that could be interpreted as you're just rolling over, right? So someone says, for example, why did you do this? You really pissed me off. And then if you don't respond defensively, then what do? Then you just say, oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not it either. But you could also say, oh, I see this has really upset you. That's not defensive. It's not admitting guilt, right? It's not condoning the accusation, but now you're showing empathy without having to go either of the bad direction. Because if you just roll over too and just say, oh, I'm sorry, like then you start to become self-deprecating and you're just a pushover and you're just a people pleaser. You don't want to do that either. So it's the art of
it is an art. But once you get it down and you see how better the dynamic is, it does make it easier. But it's going to be hard to initially get out of that like wanting to defend instantly, because that's like it's a childish response. Like it's what we grew up with, like, and a lot of people don't grow out of it for one reason or another, or it's a trauma response or something.